Hello. I didn't, it's action.
Action, sorry.
Hello, everybody. My name is Karen from Quantum Healing with Tina and Karen. And today I'm here with Tina.
Hello.
So, hopping on a call to discuss what is it, like a website or some kind of,
It's
yeah.
an article that I found. It was posted by this group that came out a couple years ago called We Are Sovereign. And like, I don't know, there's a lot of kind of shady energy around them. They came out talking about like the digital currency system and it's going to come any day now. And there's these different tiers to the system from, just common people to sovereign people. And the sovereign people are mostly, celebrities, politicians, well-known people. Um, and they have some kind of like insiders that work to set up this system, the digital currency system, that are watching from the inside, like what's happening and how the system is being set up. This is what they claim. And that these insiders can potentially change your status from, say, common to sovereign so that you won't be controlled in the way that the rest of us will be. As far as that goes, I don't know. I feel like I don't know how to feel about it. I really don't have much of an opinion about it, except I'm very skeptical. Um, but so I haven't looked at any of their content in a long time, but I happen to be like attracted to click on this article that popped up for me, and it's called
The beast system. Is that the one?
the yeah, the beast system in this life and the next. Is that what it's called? I may not lie.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I had written down.
And I was like, oh, let me check this out. Yeah. So I thought we could review this today because a lot of what is said in here does ring true to me. Um, Especially because it does coincide with a lot of the things that we've either suspected or had insights into or even seen in sessions. Especially when it comes to NDEs, because I've always said, like, I know that these NDEs are being induced,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that these people can come back with this information. It's like matrix propaganda, right? Of like, go into the light, go through the tunnel, everything's amazing. It's all love and bliss and like all that kind of talk. And I know this because I had an experience for myself that I know was manipulated and almost NDE. Like I didn't fully leave my body, but I was like this close to it. And I know that that was induced. So that said, like I always suspected that it was being induced by, we'll just call them the archons for lack of a better word, because there's so many words for these beings that they're here, right? And they are manipulating and controlling humanity. But I never considered that the government could be doing it or experimenting in that way. So I thought that like that side of it was really interesting to me too. Um, so yeah, so I'm gonna share the screen so you guys can follow along and we can talk about it. Yeah, wait, let me stop that. Okay, can you see that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So it's basically a conversation. This is how all their intel drops go. It's a conversation between Bill and Gideon. Gideon So what they're talking about here in the beginning, Gideon is the guy that worked for the cabal in the past. So since he's been on the inside, he knows how they work. And once he realized who he was working for, he got out, supposedly. So this is what their drops are kind of based around Gideon's inside information. So here he says, you know, he did work for the cabal, but was not aware of the full extent of who he was working for. And once I found out, I made careful steps to exit that career. And he says, I regret some of it. Later, I had my eyes open to what I was doing. It was a very long time ago. A lot has gone on since then. I've spent considerable years working against the cabal. So they're just kind of giving like a back story. And he says, that's why I can sleep well at night. So then they're referencing this afterlife intel. And Gideon says he got permission to talk about it
By whom?
I don't know. We'll see. Okay. So Gideon says, what I was told is coming from a senior scientist on a major classified project for a certain European government. It involves NDEs or near-death experiences. What does the project entail? They are, in short, inducing NDEs and directing the departed soul to carry out missions. The soul then returns to the body and they are brought back to life. This scientist is scared to death because of some of what is being said, what is being brought back. So the scientist involved in this is scared because of what's the information that's being brought back. So the information that they're getting in the government, behind the scenes is obviously different from the information that's being given to the public.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So this is exactly what I'm saying. Like they induce NDEs, these entities are inducing NDEs. The soul has this experience that's perfectly crafted for them. Then they come back. And what does everybody say when they come back? They always say that they now have this mission. And their mission is to share their experience with the world. They write books, they go on podcasts, all of this kind of stuff. But what you don't hear a lot is like about the NDEs, like say that Bonnie Jennings had, where, she saw aliens after death. And I mean, her NDE seems to be one of the more authentic and genuine ones out there, but you won't see her in, on major podcasts or things like that because people don't want to hear it.
Right.
They just want to hear the good things, the propaganda, and everything's perfect and beautiful. So this scientist who's involved in this project is scared because of the information that's coming back. So Bill says, we talked about this for 3 hours a while back. It just never made it to an intel drop. I think it's one of the most incredible stories I've ever heard. Now, it does connect to this group you spoke of, at least partly. Is that right? I mean, the group you said is going to release information soon. And Gideon says, yes, it does. This particular individual is working with that group, providing them information. I expect there will be some public disclosure soon on it. It's also possible the cabal may try to censor it. So apparently there's a group that's going to release information. So as far as how do they actually do it and who are they doing this to, Gideon says, the individuals involved are always under the age of 12. They are chosen for a variety of reasons, one of which is they must demonstrate very high intellectual acuity for their age. The government needs children who can follow instructions. Children are solely used because their soul can be dislodged from the body and the body can be brought back to life with a very high success rate. The success rate for adults is far too low, but it has been extensively tested on individuals who might have been disappeared, individuals taken out of society.
So all the plain disappearing plans? maybe.
Maybe. Or just people that just go missing, all the time out of nowhere, and no one knows what happened to them. But what he said here is very much true about the government wanting children who have a very high intellectual acuity. I mean, we've seen that throughout our own sessions with clients that, kids that are involved in these government programs are always really gifted. I mean, that's what the whole gifted and talented program is about, to recruit these children. And they're usually doing some kind of spiritual work for the agencies. So that's true. And it's also true that children, their souls can be dislodged from the body more easily, and their bodies can be brought back to life more easily because the heart is usually really, really strong. And in cases of children, before the introduction of the shots, children, it was very, very rare that children had any kind of like cardiac type issues. Usually it will start with respiratory issues. And then if that respiratory issue gets really, really bad, it will lead into some kind of cardiac event. But for the most part, you'll rarely, before, all of this, you would never hear of a child just having a heart attack or something like that. Their hearts are normally really, really strong. So that's also true. And we know that children, so we're going to see this next part here. So Bill says, so it doesn't work on adults, it works on kids. What's the success rate? And Gideon says, it is high, and higher the younger they are. This is because it appears the soul and human brain do not fully fuse together until about the age of 3, and entirely by the age of 12. I do not know the complete science behind it, just a general outline. This is what I was told. So that's also true. We know that, like, children, especially under, under 3, especially, but even under 12, that they are more connected. There's less of a veil between them and the other side. So it is easier for them to pop in and out of their body. And that's also how we learn, unfortunately, how to cope with trauma in this realm, is by leaving the body. So first, even for some children, it becomes a necessary part of survival here is to pop in and out of the body.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So Bill says, is there brainwashing and programming that goes on? And Gideon says, yes, extensively, so that the child complies. Are the children harmed or tortured? He told me they are not, that they are all treated well, but they do undergo psychological conditioning, which is a form of abuse. It is. What's the mission in the afterlife? The mission is something where the scientist describing this to me found himself unable to fully disclose it, generally out of fear. He believes if he utters the words, there is enough surveillance to track him. I told him there are measures we can use so he can speak freely, but he would not do that with me. He has done it with the group I referred him to. Bill says, I see. Did he give any hints, any idea of what the mission is? What is the government trying to do in the afterlife? Are they trying to explore it or understand it? And Gideon says they already understand it fully, Bill. There is no need for that or to explore it. It has been charted and studied, probably for centuries, by the cabal. The missions are very specific, and the children or their souls, they go to specific places which exist in what is called the astral plane, and another place, the astral planet. They go and do things, tasks, complete orders, sometimes deliver messages, sometimes conduct surveillance. That is the most he would tell me. There is more, but it was not told to me. It was told to the group I referred to. So I guess he referred this scientist to a group or something. I'm not exactly sure, but I mean, it's not surprising to me that the afterlife has been charted and studied by the Cabal for centuries. I think that it's
Mhm.
very obvious that the control structures here are coming from the top down, right? So
Mhm.
they would have to know what's happening there.
Yeah, and then be able to conjure their own type of stuff to have control over there, like with their entities and whatnot, to direct them to back into the food chain. Mm.
Yeah, and he mentioned something here about the astral planet, which I think he goes on to explain later, but I thought that was interesting too, because I just saw another video where the guy was talking about like exactly this. So let's see.
Yeah, I feel like when I dream, I go to somewhere. I would say it's like astral, but I don't know if maybe it's the astral planet. I don't know. It's like a different world there.
Hmm. Yeah. So he says when they induce the NDE, how does it work? It's done by using a mixture of chemicals similar to how anesthesia works. The key is the central nervous system must be shut off. All electrical activity must cease in the body for the soul to be released. That does not happen under general anesthesia, of course, so more is done, right? But it does happen sometimes under general anesthesia where people will fully leave the body, but the body does stay alive, but they're actually killing the body
Mm-hmm.
for like not just a near death experience, but a real death experience,
Mm-hmm.
and then bringing them back. Yeah. Um, Bill says, to me, it's just evil, but it sounds like something the cabal would do. This is the cabal, right? It is, yes, through an arm of the government. I should have put together some notes. My head is buzzing with 20 questions. Okay. What exactly happens at death and where does their soul go? Once the central nervous system shuts off and all electrical activity ceases, the soul is released, which is a high energy ball of protons, something I don't know how to explain, nor did my friend. We do not fully know how consciousness somehow exists within this ball of energy, but it does, and resides in the body. We believe in the brain, near or within the pineal gland. It actually exists within 2 or 3 dimensions beyond this one at the same time as well. Once you die, where does the soul go? It expands and moves on to another dimension. Our dimension usually fades quickly for the soul as it observes its surroundings. It moves on to the astral plane, a dimension that overlays our own, that we cannot see, feel, or detect virtually at all while we're here alive. But it is right beside us.
Oh, we've seen astral people. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really hard to believe all this, even though I actually believe in a soul and in God. I still can't wrap my head around it. Why can't we detect the soul or these other dimensions? The body is a carrier or a container for the soul, and the soul is trapped inside it during a lifetime. It cannot escape, move, or do much of anything. It is wrapped up and contained by the central nervous system electromagnetic force field that all bodies produce. Our bodies are actually electricity generators, though this is not widely published or discussed. It appears that it is the mechanism that keeps the soul in place. In terms of detecting it, there are some methods, but these are highly suppressed by the cabal. The other dimensions can be detected, but again, the methods are suppressed. So this is interesting because I feel like everything that they're doing right now with the technology, and that will come into play later on in this article, it's all about the electricity of the body and harvesting that electricity for whatever fuckery they're up to. Like it's just, and most people don't even know, right? I mean, common people don't even know that they have a biofield or an R or whatever you want to call it, but this field of electricity that is around us. And Most people aren't even fully anchored into their bodies to feel their bodies. They're halfway outside of their bodies most of the time. Um, so those people are very easily being going to be taken advantage of by the forces that seek to control us through the technology because they're not anchored in their body and able to feel what's actually happening.
Mhm.
Yeah. So of course, all the methods of detecting, the bioelectric field and the other dimensions, of course, they're going to be suppressed. They don't want anyone to know that there's anything except for the body, except for physicality.
You're right.
But behind the scenes, they're doing all the research into it because they want to know. They want to know everything so that they can control it. So to recap all of this, the children are killed basically. They've been given instructions on what to do once they die. They go to fulfill the mission and then they are brought back to life. Um, their body is dead for 10 to 12 minutes. And
Do
Bill
they
said,
did they say like how many times they do this or for a child, or is it like, or they're not specific on that? Like, can they do multiple missions?
I'm sure that they do.
Hmm.
I don't think they say it in this article, but I can imagine if there's a child that's really good at it, that they would use them multiple times.
Right.
Yeah. Um, Bill says, I've read some NDEs before, and it seems like people always say their time in the afterlife was way, way longer than the time they were dead. Is that right? Gideon said, it appears so. It appears the project the scientist was involved with wanted an ideal death time of 10 or 12 minutes because it afforded the maximum mission time in the afterlife and best chance to still bring someone back. That time is what seems to be a few hours or days when they are in the afterlife, even though it is only 10 to 12 minutes here. Time here is different and somewhat an illusion, while time in these other dimensions either does not exist or things happen all at once. It is conceptually difficult to grasp, and that we know.
Mhm.
So, the 10 to 12 minutes that they're dead here, it could be eons on the other side, depending on where they go. And they could come back with a lot of information. Bill says, what if it's a shorter death time? It seems chances of coming back would be higher. Yes, but there is a period of transition for the soul. It's not instant upon death. And that seems to take a few minutes in our time frame. The soul has to fully move on to the next dimension. The person has to be dead at least a few minutes just to get that process completed.
I can't even imagine doing a process like that on a 3-year-old, and then when they come back, you're like, so what did you get? Like, imagine having that conversation. Like, they have to be like Doogie Howser, like intelligent to be able to give a relay whatever
Yeah.
data they had received on the other side. I don't know. I could see how that would be really long if that is really, what they do. 3 years old? I don't know.
Mhm.
Just sounds
I,
weird. How they,
I, yeah, I can't imagine they would use a lot of 3-year-olds for that. I would think they would at least have to be, what, 5 or 6 to get any like kind of real credible information or information that you can understand,
where they're not going to forget too,
Right.
because it's so much info. And for them to relay it back, like when they come back into the density here, to have to pull it back from the dream.
Yeah, you have to wonder how that works because even people that have NDEs, and even we know with session work, sometimes when you come back into this reality, it just fades. And
Right.
it takes time to recall it. That's why we record sessions so that you can go back and listen to it and remember. But even like a lot of people that have NDEs, um, they don't remember anything right away, and it comes back to them over time. They start
Yeah.
getting their memories of what happened.
I would assume that they have some kind of technology that is able to track the consciousness and maybe be able to see what they're seeing, maybe
Mm,
through VR. I
hmm.
don't know. That's the only thing I could really think of instead of like a 3-year-old coming back and like giving them like
Yeah.
a report.
Yeah, well, maybe that's where the nanotech comes in.
Yeah.
Because if it does go with the soul, then it could be recording everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So Bill says, is that why some people die and come back and don't report anything? You have to be dead a while before anything happens. Gideon says, possibly. What is the astral plane like compared to here? Gideon says, some of this information I got from this group we have been speaking of, not just the scientists. There are at least two types of astral areas we are speaking of, so I need to be clear. There is something that overlays Earth. If your soul stays in this area, you will see the Earth as we see it, but also a lot of other things, more colors, something called MB, and noise, which would be all the thoughts everyone is thinking, which could sound like a train of chatter and noise. Yeah, I could imagine that would be a very kind of messy overlay with everybody's thoughts and noise.
Mm-hmm.
You would also see entities, other souls, and what we think of as ghosts. You would see a number of odd things. You would be able to pass through walls too. Since time is different in this plane, souls can end up in temporal time loops. So this is where we
Mm-hmm.
see like earthbound souls getting stuck in this space where it's almost like they're right here, but they're not here, but they're like you can't physically see them, but like they're there, and they get
Mm-hmm.
stuck in those time loops. We saw that in that show we watched, remember, where they were stuck, the father and the daughters and the wife were all stuck in that time loop where
Mm. Yeah. That was the Dead Boy Detectives.
Dead Boy Detectives. Yeah, we watched a couple episodes of that, and it was fascinating, really, because it was a lot of like they covered a lot of what we do in our work. But
Yeah.
yeah, the souls were stuck here. They were still on Earth, still in their house, and stuck in the loop of time of when they died because something traumatic happened. And because of that trauma, they got stuck there and needed help to get out of that loop and move on. So I think that's what this overlay he's talking about here. You can still see everything as we see it, but things are a little bit different. I think this is also what people see too when they come out of their bodies to astral travel and they're still standing in the same room, although it looks and might feel a little bit different, you still see it the same.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, so temporal time loops. These are known as ghosts, often residing in or around surroundings for decades and never leaving. To the ghost, time has barely passed, and some may not even know they are dead, while to us, decades have gone by and they are still there. Yeah, that's exactly how it works. Most souls do not stay in this area for long. They move on to the astral world. This is a separate place, though in the same dimension. So, same separate place, same dimension. The scientists I spoke with said it does not overlay Earth at all, but it is connected in some way. The soul would go through a tunnel of sorts to reach it. There, they would find an Earth like planet, very different from our own, but also familiar in certain ways. It is in the astral dimension, but souls can appear material like and experience material things if they choose, and they do. So, this is when you hear like astral travelers or NDEs talk about having, like, still having a body, still being able to eat, like those kinds of things. It's still, they experience it as if it were material.
Mm.
I was told it is dystopian in nature with a top-down ruling hierarchy. I was told some Hollywood movies specifically show it and describe it. The laws of nature are different, gravity and so on. People can read thoughts and walk through walls, but the rules in place do not always allow it. There is a strict police state in place. There is extensive drug use, alcoholism, sex and prostitution. All of this takes place because the soul can materialize certain things and experience the third dimension or a simulation of it, like here on Earth. So I think that perfectly describes the astral.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, they enforce rules, though. Otherwise, souls could exert more influence on their surroundings, materialize things using thought alone, and so on. The power structure would break down. How they maintain the power structure, it seems, and why is the biggest secret of all. One so incredible, this scientist was in fear for his life if he even thought or spoke the words. So that's pretty wild.
Mm-hmm.
So if souls in this place could exert their power here, the power structure there would break down because I'm sure there's far more souls there than the actual hierarchy. Just like, and that, like, reading this just reminds me of here.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how is it any different than what's happening here?
Right.
You know, like we have power too. We've just forgotten, and we're controlled, and there's a hierarchy, and it's all the same thing, just in another dimension.
Right.
Um, yeah, so he says how they maintain the power structure, it seems, and why is the biggest secret of all. One so incredible, this scientist was in fear for his life if he even thought or spoke the words. Bill says, what do you mean if he thought them? His thoughts can be read if the government sends a child on an NDE mission to investigate him. He believes they have done such things to one of his colleagues who ended up taken away. While the child may have only been dead for 10 minutes, in the astral, he can spend hours or even days investigating someone like his colleague and examining his thoughts. I think this is probably true, but there are other ways the government can read your thoughts, and it doesn't involve having to, like, having a child on an NDE mission to do that. They can map out our brain waves now and know exactly what we're thinking, just using the technology that's in us and all around us.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. Um, so the scientist monitors his own thoughts. He says he did disclose some things to me, but much more to the group that I sent him to. I advised them on how he could speak and think without fear. And he says, so there must be ways to block this extra dimension from seeing what's going on. He says, yes, similar to a Faraday cage. So they go on to talk about this series, Cosmic Rules Are About to Change. Those are interesting articles too. I kind of skimmed through them. So when they're talking about Gideon's guide here, it's not a spirit guide, it's an actual human person. So Bill says we've had multiple entries in our Cosmic Rules Are About to Change series, and in those you do speak of the astral plane from information from your guide. It seems this coincides and confirms with what she told you. Do you think it does? Gideon says it does, but with more detail. There is more knowledge the scientist is imparting. Does your guide not know certain things? My guide has not spent hardly any time in this astral plane or world. Her knowledge is from other sources. My guide has spent time with our creator, who exists entirely outside of Earth and the astral world. Did you discuss what this scientist said with your guide? Yes, and she confirms all of it is accurate and she is aware of these black projects. She is deeply concerned about them. So the cabal controls it just like it controls the earth. Same cabal, same everything. If a soul ends up there, is it still a soul or does it have a body? It can materialize as a body and it must remain as such. There are laws against shape shifting, and certain powers are only afforded to the hierarchy. How can they enforce that? Because they have the same powers. They can read thoughts. There is a mass surveillance far greater than there is here, because, for example, you can see through walls there if you want. So while a soul who ends up there has more powers than they have here, because of the nature of the dimension, the power structure also has far greater powers. So it equalizes. Why is this astral dimension like that? It seems very weird to me. Different laws of nature apply there. Laws of motion, gravity, cause and effect, they are vastly different. Thought itself forms the reality, in fact. The cities, the towns, everything is formed by thought on the astral planet. How that structure remains in place is due to the power structure and enforcement in place. Without it, the planet would dissolve into various thought forms produced by the millions of souls within it, all creating their own worlds. This is not allowed. I should add this astral planet is just one place among this entire dimension, which is vast in its size, extending across the universe and including countless other worlds, ones that are not traps or controlled by the cabal. To get to them is another matter. So he's saying the astral planet is just one place among this entire dimension. I guess he's referring to the astral dimension, which is vast in its size, extending across the universe and including countless other worlds, ones that are not traps or controlled by a cabal. And I wonder if he's speaking about like the other astral planes or the planes above the astral, or if he's speaking about like within the astral itself. Either one I could see to be true because we know that there are planes above the astral that are higher, that are maybe not as controlled as the astral plane.
Mm-hmm.
But it's interesting that he says the astral planet is just one place among this entire dimension, which is vast in its size, extending across the universe and including countless other worlds. So I don't know. And he says God resides in dimensions above it, but God is present in all dimensions as well. Why would anyone agree to being there on this astral planet? A few reasons. Those who are there are often trapped there, often lured there and trapped. Those who are there are bonded by agreements which are taking place in this life, which is the most important and chilling factor one should consider. Those who are there, some of them want to be there because of the benefits, the power, the hierarchy they can join and move up within. I am speaking mostly of cabal members. Others are drawn to the rampant sex, drugs, gambling, and hedonistic lifestyle, one that does not require hard work, one without consequences, since no one can actually die or be harmed physically there. They are drawn to this only to find later they have made the most grave mistake imaginable. I imagine that people do get drawn in there, and they think they're just in another place like Earth and they get to do whatever they want. And then one day they wake up and realize they're trapped. It's kind of just like here,
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah. Those who are there know that, so they comply with, oh, wait, no, he says there are other ways, though. The cabal can harm you and hurt you in the astral, ways that are terrifying and possibly worse than death or torture here on Earth. Those who are there know that, so they comply with the police forces. So I wonder if that's like the electrical shock therapy that you hear about that souls go through.
Oh, like when they like enter through the matrix, like filter.
and get zapped. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. So the astral plane and the astral planet are different things. He says, does the planet have a name? It does, but invoking that name carries within it a vibratory signature that will bring unwanted entities in my direction. There's no reason for me to say it. My understanding is that the group, the group who will release information may use it though. Michael discussed some of that with me the other day. He said it is a biblical name. And the Cabal wants the astral planet to be secret. They prefer that we humans either believe in materialism, in religion, in New Age beliefs, or in the versions of NDEs they offer and show. They do not want people to believe anything I am saying right now. Most NDEs are sanitized experiences of the individual so that when they come back, all of us believe a certain experience awaits us.
Mhm.
But it doesn't. It does, but it is not the full truth. Many will experience the so-called light and tunnel, and they may speak to God or Jesus, but these are entirely deceptions. Only those washed in the blood of Christ who have full salvation may bypass these traps. But even then, my guide said God's holy chosen few are being trapped and deceived upon death. So that's interesting because we come back to the Jesus thing again.
Mhm.
And Jesus being the key to bypassing the traps.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's the only thing that could counteract, like, yeah, the darkness here, or the Satan's world.
Yeah. I mean, it keeps coming back like over and over again, like, and can you stand the truth and all of that? And because even if you think about the occult here and the cabal and the occult, like it is for them, it's like Satan versus Jesus. Like that is the thing, it seems like, or it's it's like you have the satanic energies here and you have the false light energies here, and the Christ is in the middle, which is the antidote to both.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, there he says, how is the cabal allowed to mimic Jesus, to make a fake Jesus in the afterlife? Because the realm is not ruled by God, it is ruled by Satan. When we die, we are still in satanic realms. People do not have knowledge on how to escape these areas. Some even believe they are in godly realms. Remember, Satan is an angel of light. We must remember
I'm glad that's highlighted in red.
that.
I think people need to really let that sink in.
What does that mean to you? Like when you think about that?
I feel like it can, gosh, it could just manipulate its way through anything, change its face, be deceive because it's beautiful. And so
Yes.
it's like gaslighting, or just how everything looks pretty, but the actions are different, like you can say all this beautiful things, but then you're not doing that kind of thing, that kind of deception. Um, yeah, I just see, like, every time I get in contact or like see the satanic energy, it just kind of creeps its way in and just overrides overrides the system to do what it wants it to do, or to seek what it wants to destruct, to destroy, to manipulate, to sexualize, to whatever it is on the agenda. So because it's like a perverted version of, like, where of paradise, then yeah, it will do anything in its power to maintain the perversion.
Hmm. Yeah, that's powerful. Um, I don't know why, but I'm thinking like these visuals popped into my mind of like the UFO phenomenon, where these like glowing orbs of light are popping up all over the world, and they're becoming more and more frequent, and more people are seeing it. And everybody has a phone now, so it's all on video, and people are talking about their experiences on podcasts, so everybody's sharing information. And yeah, I mean, they do look like angels of light, right? They're these beautiful glowing orbs, and
Mm-hmm.
um but a lot of these orbs are, so when we're talking about like Satan masquerading as an angel of light, that's what was popping into my mind. Like, yeah, these are all, for lack of a better word, call them archons or satanic energies that are tricking people with
Mm-hmm.
their light. A lot of these orb type things are seen around, um, like dog man sightings,
Mm.
Bigfoot, aliens, and I think they're all probably, uh, they're all shape-shifting entities.
Yeah. Yeah. They have to trick people. They use their their naivete to against them.
Mhm.
They just project what they want to see.
Right.
The charisma, the beauty, just like that trance state where you're just so enthralled by their like presence, their physical presence, even like whatever they're doing to your whatever summoning. But they know how to hook in because they're pretty much attracting if you can't see right through it, they're trying to attract that inner child part that wants to be seen by this beautiful being.
Hmm.
And I'll do whatever you want.
Hmm. Yeah, and as you're talking about that, I'm thinking about like, someone sent us a video recently, and was Michael Sarian, I think. I don't know to say his last name, but he was talking about how, what was it, Queen Elizabeth the First? I don't know. It was like one of the queens where John Dee was her occult person. And
Yeah.
that's when like all of this stuff started. And they had this huge network of people that were trying to figure out how to bring through and channel these entities and get all the information. So that was really the beginning of when all these entities really started coming in from this other dimension. And there was so much information that it took them a long, long time to barely get it down. But what it came down to was like, there was something about silicone technology, and this is back hundreds of years ago. So they didn't even understand what any of that was about. So now we come into current time where, in the 40s and 50s, where Aleister Crowley and Jack Parsons were doing these rituals. I forget the specific name of it now. Um, but it was a ritual to open this portal to bring through these entities again, which is when all of the abductions started happening, and
Mm-hmm.
all of that kind of stuff. So there's like a continuum or a deepening of the opening that
Mm-hmm.
has happened. And then with the death of the queen, when was that? A couple years ago?
2022, September. It's going to
Right.
be 2 years now soon.
That to me felt like that was the final step needed. to really open that portal all the way. Because yeah, since then we've seen this technology it's literally taking over. It's in everything, it's everywhere, it's in everyone. Like it's just everywhere. And speaking of that, I know we're like kind of going off topic right now, but it's all related. One of our YouTube subscribers emailed us and she was asking about Saint Germain. So I was telling her what I know about Saint Germain. Um, and then someone else had mentioned him. So he was in my awareness and I was drawn to this video. I felt like I had to watch it. And it was a channeling that was done in 1987. And it was so fascinating because
She was definitely channeling something.
she was channeling something, right? So, even if Saint Germain, I'll just read you what I wrote in group just for everybody else. Saint Germain is a really kind of um, controversial figure throughout history, right? Like in the New Age today, people call him an ascended master. They don't even know who this guy is or why they call him that, or they don't know anything about Saint Germain, but he was born in Transylvania.
I bet. Already there, you're like, period. That's
He's
it. That's all I need to know.
born in Transylvania, very mysterious. He's not a saint or an ascended master. He was the Count of Saint Germain. The Count of Saint Germain. He was kind of like a con artist, said to be an alchemist, said to possess the elixir of life, which I intuit to be blood. He ran in these elite circles was associated with the deeper levels of like the Great White Brotherhood, kind of like um, trolloped around Europe, and he's very like influential to the hierarchy and the secret societies that run the world, and possibly a real vampire,
Mm-hmm.
because there are interesting accounts of his birth, of his supposed deaths, of him then showing up later. Then he shows up in like Louisiana in some like weird thing where, yeah, anyway, if you guys want to look more into that, you can read The Gods of Eden by William Bramley, or look into like Louisiana vampire lore.
Mm-hmm.
It's very interesting. But anyway, I never watch channelings anymore, but something really drew me to this. And most of it is kind of like um just the usual um things that you hear in channeling. But there was one part of this that really stood out to me. And I was like, oh, this is the whole reason I'm watching this, because what he said was, or whoever this entity was, we don't know if it's the Count of Saint Germain or who it was really, but that's who he said he was, or that's who he told this woman that he was.
Mm-hmm.
But you could tell, like, she really leaves her body and goes somewhere, and this entity
Yeah.
steps in.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It was just crazy I didn't know what the hell was happening. I didn't even know what to do with myself when I was listening and watching. I was like, yeah,
Yeah.
very animated and
It was fun
yeah.
to listen to too.
Yeah.
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 Um,
Once you get over the initial shock, like
yeah. So he says he's going to tell us something regarding earth changes that we don't already know about. So it's the usual earthquake stuff and climate change and whatever. But then he says, quote, there is that which you would call a crystal sheet. A crystal sheet. It is a light wave circuitry and allows indeed consciousness and technology to be in relation to one another. It is a multi-versatile, interdimensional engineering. And when this set is called your conductive metallic plastic, your
Mm-hmm.
your crystal, your magnesium, your iridium, in conjunction with one another, comes forth upon the plane, you will understand relationship with intergalactic understandings.
Mm.
And you have no fear of what is upon your plane anymore, for you will find it is beyond the doorway of the time continuum as well. It is all about you. It is familiar then. Then he goes on to talk about how we in our bodies will also be super conductive
Mm-hmm.
due to this incoming light to the planet, and how because of that conductivity we will affect the emotions of each other and of the earth very easily. But I thought, wow, like, first of all, he calls it a plane and not a planet. Second of all, a light wave circuitry that allows consciousness and technology to be in relationship sounds to me like the merging of consciousness with technology, right?
Yeah.
Conductive metal plastic seems to be referring to the fibers being found in humans, animals, plants, everywhere. These,
Mm-hmm.
these fibers, they've found to be polymer with a base of metal that are highly conductive and act like an antenna, which would make us superconductive.
Mm-hmm.
In conjunction with other materials such as crystals, which are also being found in the blood and in the vials of the injections. And he says it comes forth upon the plane. Well, my question is, where does it coming forth from?
Right.
Where is it coming forth from? And he says there seems to be an interdimensional engineering here with an intergalactic component beyond the doorway of the time continuum. So recent research and remote viewing shows that this tech may be actually accessing wormhole technology, shifting timelines and dimensions. We know that. Karen and I have seen that for ourselves. We've seen this technology do that. We've seen it disappear right in front of our eyes. And when I posted that video of it disappearing in another group, someone made like the best comment ever, because it was like, just blew my mind. I'm like, oh my God, that's exactly it. That's what it reminded me of. She said that it reminded her of the MH370 plane that disappeared.
Mm-hmm.
And there's video of it. There's actually video of it happening. And you can see the thermal image of the plane. And there are three orbs that come out of nowhere and start circling it like this.
Mm-hmm.
And then everything disappears.
Mm.
And that's exactly what happens in the video of the fiber. Before it disappears, first of all, we're talking to it. And Karen says, who sent you? Where did you come from? Something like that. And it's moving when she says that. And then when she says it, it goes limp and stops moving. And you're like, did you die? I wish I had time to edit. I would insert that video. Um, but so it
With the
goes limp.
the fiber from my armpit.
Yeah. And then, so we're kind of in shock. And then we're watching it, and you can see behind it, there are tiny, tiny little particles, bright, like they look like silver particles, and they're whizzing by the screen, like around the fiber. And then you can see the energy around the fiber soften, and then it blips out, disappears completely.
Yeah. We're all like, did you jump?
Yeah, I was gone. Yeah, but it was just like the flight, the video of the flight where the orbs come and circle it and then it disappears. And it's interesting because if this technology is conscious or if it's merging with consciousness, it had to know that we were burning the other fibers. So
Yeah.
was it expecting us to burn it and it called for like rescue or something or
Or
like
it saw that we weren't burning it yet. So it pressed its like 911.
like eject?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. But where did it go? Like,
Yeah. Like, is it still there or did it go back to my armpit?
right. Is it still there or and we just can't see it?
Right.
Where did it go? Was it transported to another time or dimension? Does it come back later? But this is the interdimensional, intergalactic component of this technology that they're talking about in this channeling.
Right.
And this is why I think that we're seeing it and when trying to heal from it, that it keeps coming back in cycles, or there's like cycles to the manifestation of it, you
Mm-hmm.
know? Yeah. So, yes. So when I saw that video of Michael Sarian talking about the silicone technology, that kind of brought me all the way back into this. But we're back to Satan is an angel of light. And
Right.
in essence, this technology is satanic. This is not for the good of humanity. If anything, this technology is going to merge with humanity, and that's not good. So let's go. So we're going to get to that in a second in this article. Okay. So remember, Satan is an angel of light. You must remember that.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting, true, but God isn't darkness. He is not the opposite of light, is he? It is nuanced. In the simplest way, Satan is copying and mimicking the pure love of God. I can't believe God allows this, though, to allow people to stay trapped even after death. We allow it, Bill. We allow it. Through the contracts we have made in this life, the compromises, the cabal believes we belong to the cabal. It appears God has allowed this to happen because people have free will. People can choose, and people have chosen the beast. What would it look like if a person did not choose the beast in this life? What would that person look like as someone we could model? That's a very good question. My guide has spoke about this a bit. She said that person would not participate at all in the money system. She said that is key. That person would probably have a small farm, live off the land, and never use money. They would only barter. So the Amish have it down.
Good for them, man.
But it makes sense though. I mean,
Yeah.
technically, we are consenting if we're still participating.
Right.
I've asked how many of these people exist today, and she said no more than about 350,000 on the entire planet. She said they will go directly to God upon death. She said the cabal also sometimes tries to find these people and get them to use money and technology. Interestingly enough, they usually reject it or never use it if it's given to them. Does the cabal try to force it? No, the cabal gains far more power if they willingly do it. This is what the cabal wants. If they turn away and go about their nomadic ways of living off the land, the cabal tends to leave them be. I guess the nanodust wouldn't affect them either, right? If they're living off the land. It will not because they never consumed it in the mass produced food.
But what about like chemtrails and all that stuff?
Yeah, I don't know about that. I definitely think they have an advantage that maybe it won't affect them as
As
much.
much?
Right.
Yeah, because they're not.
Immersed in it.
Yeah, right, right.
And the technology too that magnifies it, makes it grow, eating the food from the supermarket and all that kind of stuff. I'm sure their animals probably don't get injections either. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so there's a lot of factors. Um, Bill says we're not in that special group. I'm not your, I don't know how to handle this. Most of our readers aren't. We're all in the group that uses the money system and technology. I just don't know how to process it. I feel like God is abandoning us. He is not, but we also have work to do. We have work to do, Bill, to be ready for him. So they go on to talk about some of their stuff about stopping Obsidian. I think that's the money digital currency thing, but I'm not
Yeah,
completely
okay.
sure.
Right.
Um,
Um, sorry, this is a side note. I wanted to watch this show, Mr. Robot. I don't know. Have you heard of that one?
I watched a couple episodes of that back in the day.
I think it's relevant.
Is it
I think so because there's a character named Gideon in there.
really?
Mm-hmm. You
Yeah,
might
we
have to
should
try
check
it.
it out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
try it out. It's like about hacking like the computer system
Hmm.
or against the people who have like majority who take on majority of like the financial system, like 70%. So it is like the cabal.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So they took this like little break here to talk about their other things. Um, okay. Big news stories recently. One is that nanobots have been found in the blood of the unvaccinated. Yes, that's true. Another one is Bank of America has all but released information showing they have a full digital ID system set up. And that system is also Obsidian.
Is this a relatively recent like
Yeah,
okay, it's up to date.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So the underlying subsystem that controls all of the digital ID measures is Obsidian. It is simply under different names. This is so that people will not resist. If people believe each individual bank has their own digital ID program, they are less likely to link it to a one world type of system. It is similar to the fact we have so many different banks, yet they all use the SWIFT system that runs through BIS. Every transaction runs through BIS. Obsidian is somewhat an update to that. So Bill says this goes back to some of our recent discussions about how we already accepted all of these things, how the cabal basically believes they have conquered humanity. It is why their AI is putting 666 into everything, inserting it. It's like a way of almost either mocking us or letting us know what's going on. Is that along the lines of what you're saying here? It is. We already exist in a quasi beast system where we have consented to control surveillance. We have submitted to a one world banking system under SWIFT and VIS. I do not consider it the beast, however, nor do I think the cabal does. I believe the cabal believes we as humanity gave consent for them to proceed with Obsidian by already participating in their previous systems of banking and commerce that violated natural law and God's laws. So because we consent to participate in these systems, they get the go ahead, you know?
Mm-hmm. They already have like a red green light.
Right. It could be argued once credit cards became mainstream, that was the point to begin to resist. Once tracking became so prevalent, I don't know the exact date or time, but I would say mid 80s, many patriot groups were raising alarms. There's still skeptics out there who don't think this will happen, and some think Trump will stop CBDCs, for example. He said something like that. So did DeSantis. Can we trust any of that? No, they are Kabbalists and sovereigns in Obsidian. They know what to say.
Right.
So then he goes into some politics. Says Kamala Harris could win. She may not, but anyway. About Trump, he says a careful reading of his behavior would suggest he takes part in the ritual of submitting to Israel with glee. Someone who values money above all else would not hesitate to make compromises in such areas. I think Israel they named him king or something.
Way to inflate the character.
So he says, I expect a real disease will be released possibly this winter. I know it is being tested now. Monkeypox is also a symptom of two things, the shots and nano poisons. The cabal can activate a so-called monkeypox outbreak anytime, anywhere via the the injected or through nano poisons. It does seem the latent nano dust in all of us is not part of that, however. That will come later through the starlink activation.
So the Starlink activation is really when they turn on the system to activate all humans.
Yeah. I was just reading today about nano satellites. They have nano satellites now.
Oh, cute. Those must be really cute compared to the big ones that we used to have back in the day. Nano. I bet.
Everyone will be impacted by the activation. Those without the antidote, yes. Right now, that's you and me too. We haven't gotten the antidote. So the sovereigns are supposed to get the antidote to this activation. It is said that they will receive an alert, go to the pharmacy, it will be free. And it's just one dose for each person.
Yeah, I'm that answers my question that I've always been asking. I'm like, so how are they like free from all the stuff that we're being exposed to? It can't be that they're living all in bubbles and not exposed to all the crap and because so yeah, they will get the medicine.
Mhm.
They have the medicine.
Yeah. So there's going to be this Starlink activation, and it affects our souls, according to Gideon. He said, it affects the soul and by extension our afterlife path and where we end up, which will be the aforementioned astral planet. I could totally see that.
Mm-hmm. So what's
Would
the remedy?
he says, would we end up there to begin with? I mean, without all this, is that where we would go? He says, not necessarily. Most people die and they follow the light into the satanic reincarnation trap. They enjoy a wonderful time there, which is a lovely place, bathed in white light and artificial love, but then they are manipulated and pushed by their so-called guides back to Earth. That is an entirely different experience from the astral planet. By being in that cycle, at least a soul has a chance to escape and to find God. Once one arrives to the astral planet, it appears there is no escape. But who ends up on the astral planet? At this point, those who receive the injections do. They go directly there upon death. If you end up there, can you find God from there? And he says, by every account, by every source I know of, from my guide as well, the answer is no, that it is the ultimate trap, the ultimate endpoint. It also has a type of hell there below it. Is that where hell actually is? Yes. So if you end up there, you can't get out, you can't reach God. I don't know fully. I've just been told that to escape from there is nearly impossible. Because if you ended up there, it means you did something in this life to sign a contract over to Satan, to agree to something, to sign over your soul, to allow yourself to be compromised in some way. By the time the nano dust is activated, it is believed by my guide that Satan will claim every one of those souls.
Gosh.
But I don't know. I think that people can override with, if they made a mistake and did this not knowing the full ramifications, they can break those contracts and override and take back consent for, taking the shots. I think it depends on your level of consciousness. I don't think it's as black and white as they're making it out to be here,
Mm-hmm.
at all.
Yeah, because I was like, oh, okay, I guess I'm never gonna see my family again.
Yeah. If we live within the beast system, Satan believes he can claim us. That's true.
Well, he's tried at every turn.
Yeah.
He is trying all the time.
Yeah.
He's there all the fucking time.
Absolutely.
Even slides into your DMs.
So they talk about the antidote, a way to salvation. So, and then they go, see, the reason why I'm like shifty about these people is because they always go back to, that's why we have to fight Obsidian. If we do nothing, then we are complying with Satan. And there might be some truth to that. But
Mm-hmm.
it's part of their specific agenda why they always kind of revert it back to that.
Right.
And I do think there's also truth in, like he says, it does bill, but we keep washing it off because we keep participating in the system. Like your actions speak louder than your words. If you're saying one thing but doing another, there's that discordant energy there, and your actions are always going to weigh more than
Mm-hmm.
your words. Yeah, I think that's about it from this one.
Yeah, that whole article was really interesting.
Yeah.
Just to get a glimpse of like where things are at, where we stand.
Right. And these are the really important topics. Like, that's what I was saying to somebody earlier. I mean, I'm like, you are still worried about like whether Trump's going to win or Biden's going to win or whoever, Harris, it doesn't matter. Like, they're
So
two
old.
sides of the same coin.
Yeah.
And it's not necessary. And, they're like, well, I agree with what they said here and this. I'm like, that's fine. But what are they not telling you? Like they're not telling you, they're not talking about the biodigital convergence or the singularity or nanotechnology or that or the beast system and the afterlife. Like these are the conversations that are important, right?
I can imagine you running for president being like, here is the agenda. No one knows what the fuck you're talking about.
Right. Yeah, but these are the conversations that are the most important, right? I mean,
Right.
what
This is what,
happens,
yeah,
like what happens here,
they just shed light on the superficial.
right? It's so superficial.
Everyone is just writing the superficial. They can't take depth. It's rare for people to take any depth.
Yeah, I think that's why I never fit in anywhere ever.
Me fucking either. So I had no friends. So you're like my only one and only, all encompassing circle of friend.
Circle of friends. Yeah.
Yeah.
So wait, let me see here real quick. Yeah, the bigger picture is what happens after this life to our souls. They want us focused on the material world here and now and not on what comes next.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, for sure. There's no preparation for death and the afterlife. They just give you like that pretty image of like, hey, just follow, Aunt Rosie. She'll bring you to heaven.
If someone only believes in the materialist version of reality and that there is nothing after death, then they are hopelessly deceived and brainwashed. The proof of life after death is beyond question and well documented. Other forms of documentation include remote viewing, which is proven. We know this material world is not what it seems and that modern science is mostly fraudulent. We also know the Bible has been changed by the cabal. We know that afterlife is not what it seems, and people who have NDEs go into a false light where false versions of God and Jesus appear. There is no question or doubt these are false versions because what happens to people in this false light involves manipulation and coercion in thousands of NDE cases.
Yeah, they get thrown back into their body, like whipped back in.
Yeah. And, people, when we talk about these kinds of things in the afterlife, like people think that it's going to be like super dark and satanic and like there's going to be, reptilians or whatever, but it's not even always like that. Like
Mm-mm.
sometimes you're in a beautiful space with people that are familiar or peep souls, beings that are familiar to you that you know, and I mean, this one experience where I watched the other day, I can't remember who it was now, but they were in a space where they, felt good. It was kind of like what it reminded me of was the beings from Soul, where their bodies are like triangles.
Okay.
That's what he kind of described it as. Like it was almost like identical to that. So he was in this space where the beings looked like that, like they did in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And he was just like hanging out, minding his own business. And he says, next thing I know, I'm talking to one of them and they tell me to put on these goggles, like these VR type goggles.
Mm-hmm.
And so he does it. And when he does it, he's pulled into this human life. And he was like, oh my God, not again.
Oh,
So it was
God.
like they tricked him into it, but he's like, oh no, they did it in kind of like a fun loving way, you
Shut
know?
up.
Yeah. Like he must have like, I don't know, forgot that if you put on the glasses, you'd be pulled into this life. I don't know, but it didn't seem like he was in his full consciousness to know what he was getting himself into. And then went on his way down, was like, oh my God, this is happening again.
There has to be a way for you to bypass once you have that awareness while you're going down. There has to be. It's not like you're stuck on the conveyor belt and be like, oh my God, I'm on it. I think if you're conscious that you're on the conveyor belt, then you can be like, I'm not going to be here and like float
well,
off and away.
well, I've heard a lot of souls that like will exit the body. I mean, that's why some, miscarriages happen because the soul just is like, no, I'm not staying here. But some of them are also being controlled by other forces that will force them to stay in the body
Mm.
too. So yeah, there's just a lot of control and manipulation here.
Yeah, you should see all my baby pictures. I look like I was forced to stay.
I know. Who are you? I look like I was forced to stay too. I was always miserable.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like we can bypass all of this. Like, I think that's why doing the work that we're doing now is so important to clear what we need to clear so that we're not carrying this density on with us and getting sucked into the astral realm. I think we can, first of all, we can bypass it altogether by going within.
Mm-hmm.
I think if we go within, because everything outside of us is all a distraction, right? It's all a projection. So the only other place left to go is within. And if we go within, I think that's where we will find the frequency of home.
Yeah. Right. So we won't be deceived by like the false light. I think we'll be able to discern through that because I mean, in this waking state, we're able to discern through it. So they can't, I guess they can throw as much of the distraction as much as like as possible to that and then be
Right,
able to discern it,
right,
dodge it.
right. So yeah, he says there's no question or doubt these are false versions because what happens to people in this false light involves manipulation and coercion in thousands of NDE cases. A true God would not manipulate or coerce souls. NDE cases also show people meet Muhammad, Buddha, all kinds of different religious figures tailored to what they believe in. We know virtually everyone is going into this false light, including Christians.
Yeah, babe, you cannot, when you're there and they show you like dying kittens, like you cannot go, like you have got to keep going, or a fallen bird, like you've got to keep walking.
Yeah. Don't get tricked by the kittens.
I know. We have to like whisper things like that to each other, like, do not keep going. You're not, you're not far from the exit. Those aren't really kittens. Those are grays. That's not your grandma.
Right. I'm
A
training myself to
reptilian.
do that now. Like when we have those weird encounters with animals, I'm like, is that really a duck or is it a gray? You know,
Right.
like bringing that
Well,
into.
you know what was really funny was that time like when we were together and you said, oh, like a baby cardinal fell out. And so I was put on duty to watch the cardinal while you're like running, finding a box and all that stuff. And I was sitting next to it, like while the parents were like screaming at me, like, and I was like, are you who you say you are? Are you real? I go, because I don't appreciate this. It's fucking hot today. I go, we have to work at 2. I go, what is your purpose? Why did you jump out so early? Who are you pretending to be? Why did Tina see you? She always sees you.
Yeah, he was sitting right under the tree.
Mm-hmm.
Well, actually, yeah, yeah, I always see them right under the tree where the bird nest I made is.
Yeah. Ask who sent you. And then when I was trying to like grab it, it would kept jumping out and hopping out. Right, because he's like, oh my god, she's gonna squeeze me. Who sent you?
Okay, so he says most people have had spiritual experiences in their lives. All they have to do is find those and they will find God. Unfortunately, for others who are compromised and claimed by the devil, they will find Satan in those experiences. How much of a role do entities play in our lives? A significant role, according to my guide. They're always influencing us in small ways. They are everywhere. Are they
Okay.
demons? What were we going to say?
Now I'm just like, that should be highlighted in red.
Yeah,
They
they
are always, 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 always. Sorry, go ahead. Are they demons?
they are many forms. Demons are a specific type. Other types are energy farmers, tricksters, influences, or dark shadow guides. Demons are more volatile satanic spirits that cause destruction. I would agree with those statements.
Mm-hmm.
Did you believe all this 5 or 10 years ago? No, but I had a colleague very high up in military research and development department who did. I thought he was a bit unhinged until I spoke with him more and more and learned more and more. He was not unhinged at all. He was brilliant.
Is it like people think that we're unhinged? That's how I think it is. Like when I talk to my sisters, or they must think I'm unhinged.
And he says, people should not take my word for it. They should use their own discernment. If they look deep enough, they will find there is an afterlife. They will find we are met with deceptive false light and entities when we die, and that the Christian version of death has been captured by the cabal. There is a way to God, but we are compromised in this life. We committed to Satan without fully knowing it through our actions and choices. In fact, we did know, but we live in denial. Pray for guidance, blah, blah, blah. And then he talks about like going to this astral planet to destroy the cabal. I don't know about that. That's not.
I don't, that, yeah.
Mm-mm. Yeah. So everyone, whether everyone has a nano dust inside of them. So we all need to watch out for these fake entities. So we're not taken to the astral planet.
Goals. Hashtag.
They want some of them kept on Earth for as long as possible alive so they do not die. That is part of transhumanism. They're going to kill off a lot of people, but the ones left, they will keep alive. That is why birth rates are dropping by design. They're going to stop births overall in the long term and allow only selective ones. That's true.
Yeah, that's true.
That's true. They're planning something very, very big for Earth in the next few decades. There's also a cataclysmic event coming. So that brings me to the recent posts from Sam about the global consciousness project, those devices that measure the consciousness that, you know, had big blips on 9/11. There's been a rise in those since August 28th, and they haven't maxed out yet, and nothing has happened yet. So they're still rising as if something is coming soon.
How do they measure that?
I don't know exactly. There's some kind of machines that measure the consciousness somehow.
Like a general consciousness?
Of the collective. Global Consciousness Project. It's random generators. That's what they're called. Random generators.
So they're measuring our electricity.
It determines the global consciousness field, which shoots up when there are major events that consciously or unconsciously bring the random generators into coherent states. Since August 27th, the increase in coherence explodes to heights last seen with the 9/11 event, indicating maximum event probability with global impact. The graph is published with a time delay of 2 days, and so we only see here the level on August 28th, but the daily measurement shows permanent maximum values, and already on the 28th, the graph shot beyond the measurement scale, indicating that something very, very big is about to spread, which will have a global effect. And it's still going. That was a couple of days ago. So what's today? The 2nd? Today is the 2nd.
It's already the 2nd. What could it be? Does anyone have any theories? Monkeypox?
I don't think that anyone could predict something like this. I was thinking about that today. I'm like, it's going to be something that we have no insight into.
Like it's out of
Like,
left field?
Yeah, left field. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm. Oh, these are the cosmic rules. Let me see.
That one it didn't work. I think it worked at number 4.
4, yeah.
Or yeah, 4. That was February 11 of this year, but edited on June 13.
The purpose of Starlink and the nanodust is so that our souls cannot escape or ascend.
Yeah, I feel like it keeps people in their own loops, their own cycles.
Right, and that's where the time thing comes in.
Yeah.
Intel from one of the Davos attendees. Timeline. He gave specific dates for this year, next year, 2026 and 2030. They talk a lot about agents coming after them, which could be true, but
Mm-hmm.
nothing on the market can remove the nano dust. Well, I mean, it goes into every part of the body, even fuses with our cells, and then replicates new cells with the nanotech within them. Alters our DNA, spreads to every part of the body, including our bones. It even mimics the behavior of a parasite so that the body defends it and attacks anything that would harm the nanodust itself. That all is true, as far as my understanding. With Starlink, and we believe Wi-Fi and cell technology may also activate it, but Starlink itself is the command and control center, so to speak. So I'm not going to go through this whole thing. I'm just going to skim through it. The vaccines and the food supply. So he said, my guy said the antidote is an extremely advanced chemical compound containing some nanotech that signals all of the nanodust to self-destruct, and in other cases, vacate the body. It also signals cells with altered DNA to die off. The body then replaces those cells with natural cells. The antidote takes about 1 week to complete its work and 4 weeks for the nanodust to be completely shed from the body. There are no negative side effects. Positive side effects will include better mental clarity and better sleep at night. They know some of the ingredients, but not the entire recipe. So yeah, it's designed to save Cabal members. And I think they're saying that they will receive the antidote as well because they had their status changed to sovereign within the system.
Oh, Gideon and Bill?
Mm-hmm.
How do they get themselves changed to sovereign?
From their insiders that are working there.
Mm.
Like I said, take all of this with a grain of salt. I just think that there's some, if you could read between the lines and take what is true. Sometimes I almost feel like Bill and Gideon are the same person, and that whoever's writing this is just writing it in this format to
Well, it's like that guy, remember? Who would
What,
watch it? The guy who's interviewing himself.
what kind?
I forgot his name. He's always talking to that agent, and he's in a dark thing, and he has
Oh,
that voice. And I go, he's totally talking to himself.
yeah.
It's the same. I'm like, oh please, I could see right through. He's like, and
Yeah.
he even said it, like people call him out saying that he was interviewing himself. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
please. Like put a Muppet in a put it on like with your sweatshirt on and darken it and change your voice to that robotic voice to disguise your identity. It's just funny. I'm like, please.
Yeah. So there's some interesting stuff in these two, part 4 and 5 too, if you guys want to check that out. Um, so once it's activated, right? So Starlink activates the system
Mm-hmm.
and it will act as a tracking device and connect to CSRQ or Obsidian, your bank account balance or USDR at that time, your job, medical records, all of it will be transmitted to the cloud nonstop, even your own heart rate and biodata. Starlink is this cloud of data processing and connection, which is then stored in a variety of satellites in low Earth orbit.
Well, they've already done all this stuff already. Like it's already there. It's you could find it on the dark web.
Yes.
So it's already started.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. Um, yeah, I don't think that they need Starlink to do it. I
No,
think that, yeah. I mean, because we saw that in 2020, the dark web data,
yeah.
or 2021.
Yeah, something like that. It was
Yeah,
like right after the shots were distributed.
yeah, right. Neuralink is a distraction. That is true. Very much so. Neuralink is primitive, primitive technology.
Hmm.
Ultimately, the purpose of Starlink and the nanodust is so that our souls after death cannot escape or ascend Earth because it provides the ultimate surveillance control grid, virtually impossible to escape from except for living underground. Very difficult to destroy. Anyway, yeah. So interesting stuff.
Well, we're not gonna get no text for no antidote. Just gonna continue my supplements. I have to say, because well, you see me like take my supplements like with the golden seal and the cat's claw and the powder echo and all that stuff together. I love it. I don't taste it anymore. Like I think it tastes wonderful. So
Yeah,
I know that I'm healing with,
healing.
yeah, that I'm appreciating it. I don't need to put honey in it. Like I could drink it straight. Like I put water, but I could drink it straight.
Wow.
One sip. I'm not gagging anymore. I'm just, my body's like, has accepted it.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's great.
I was resistant to it when I came home because, like, we took a couple, days off of taking it, or at least with the teas. But I didn't need the teas. I just did it. I put it in my cup one day and I just put them in, like, triple them all. And I didn't take honey. I just put water and I took a sip and I was like, this is pleasant. Like, very healing and pleasant. And it's been the same since.
Good.
So I've been able to take it every day, no problem.
That's great.
Yeah. Like, don't even taste the golden seal. Like, it's fantastic. Yeah.
I actually really love the taste of oregano oil now.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I don't have any. I haven't been able to order any because it was out of stock, but yeah. I can't say that I like the taste. It's just still very strong. Also because like when I take it, like the dye off, it just yeah, it comes out the other way. So it's nice because then it smells like, a nice fresh, you know, plate of
Oregano
pasta.
plant. So yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm really proud of your healing. You've done a lot and it's
I
good.
don't know how. I mean, I'm hopeful that I'm just continuing it. Like I haven't gone off the wagon at all since I left. I've been keeping to it, keeping myself accountable. I bought myself, I told you I bought a bread maker. It didn't work out. I'm returning the bread maker, but I got it today, like a thing, the iron, what do you call it? Dutch oven
Mhm.
and bread basket and cutters. Like I have
Well,
all the
you're going
tools.
all in, huh?
Well, if it's the one thing that I can have that I could make, yeah, I'm gonna do it. And I was looking at like all the Asian sauces too, like gluten-free ones. I was reading all the ingredients just to see if there's anything, because I can't cut it all out. I could, but just have some options once in a while would be nice.
I'm
So I'm
sure
just
there's some healthy Asian sauces out
yeah, I'm gonna go to the store at some point this week. I have to go to the health store.
there. Yeah.
Or I'm gonna ask my sister to come with me on maybe Saturday. I don't know. But yeah.
Mm. Okay.
But yeah,
So
I'm
yeah,
your
as
professional bread maker. How was your bread? Did you tell me? Was it good?
my bread, it came out amazing, but I was like so tired. Um, but it just, you have to eat it when it comes out. It's not good the next day. I didn't find it was good today
But
at
did you
all.
have it right away after, or you
I
did it
had a little piece. Yeah, it
and it was good?
was really good.
Yeah, see, you got to eat them in packs, like how we ate it.
Yeah.
We were just like, we didn't eat good bread all week, and we're just
Yeah. Yeah.
like we hadn't eaten in years.
Um, yeah. So just to sum up, I think that, you know, these things are good to be aware of, right? But not to go into like fear and despair and desperation about it because we are so much more powerful than we know, than we give ourselves credit for. And I think that we've been really able to experience here. And I just find it amazing that there's a whole community of people that are coming up with antidotes to the nano problem. Like people are making devices and laser cubes and all kinds of stuff. I mean, humans are really so resilient and brilliant and all of those things when we come together in community and put our minds together you know, and do what we need to do to overcome this technology that's trying to merge with
Mm.
us in our consciousness and align us more so with those satanic energies. And as far as like the afterlife stuff, it's just really good to be aware that not everything is all love and light once you leave the body, and that you have to be prepared to test any spirits or beings that approach you after death if that happens and you're not just zapped home all of a sudden like we would like to be. But if not, if you happen to have to navigate, then just be aware and ask questions, or, don't consent to anything that you're not sure of,
Yeah.
or go anywhere that you're not sure of. Because number one, yes, everything once we leave the body is created with thought. So the second, not the minute, but the second you have that thought, you're already there. Like you can travel in that realm at the speed of thought. So if you're leaving the body with dark, depressing, negative thoughts, then you're going to manifest that. But if you're leaving the body with positive thoughts, then you're going to manifest more of that. You're going to travel there. If you're leaving the body, this is what I think. If you're leaving the body with the thoughts of home, of the real world, then you're going to be there, because we can travel at the speed of thought, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I'm thinking. And that's also why, like, we're doing all the healing work to release everything that is not that, so that we can align with that which is home, the frequency of home, and what that feels like, to anchor that into a human body,
Mm-hmm.
so that it'll be aligned. It'll just be like a natural alignment when leaving the body, and not something that you have to think about or even prepare for, really, because you're already anchoring that frequency in the
Yeah.
human form.
Yeah. Going home.
Going home. Yeah. Any other thoughts about that article?
No, none that are coming through right now. I just found it quite fascinating. I mean, just how we're in prison, and they've purposefully withheld like a major part of our existence from us and have studied it and not giving any information. It's like that all the people that really I could not stand in school, like the ones who are like, "Oh, I don't know if I'm going to do well on the test." But they know. They don't want to share it with you because they don't want you to get better than them. Yeah, those fuckers.
So is that your final conclusion, that this is a prison plane?
Well, I think if you're being withheld information, yeah. Like just to understand my existence in the physical and in like material versus like spiritual. If I don't know anything about spiritual, like we have to literally wake up in order for us to get even in tune with our spirituality, in our with our spirit.
Mm-hmm.
We know about it like through religion or just through hearing about it or just through the senses, but not to the extent that they're like we don't know. We have no fucking idea about it unless we explore it.
You have to explore it. I mean, but like, how many people now have really any kind of real awareness of what happens after death?
Nobody does. They have the mainstream image or whatever it is guidance that they've been given.
Mm-hmm.
That's all they have been given. Like that's what I grew up with. So you die, you go to heaven. If you're bad girl, you go to hell.
I was shown last night um, that the reptilians are behind all religions.
Mm-hmm.
All religions. They make them look different to appeal to different cultures.
But it's the
But
same
it, it,
reptile.
yeah, they're behind all of it, and not just religion. I mean, there's tons and tons of religions. We have major ones, but there's tons of smaller religions
Mm-hmm.
And then there are groups, and cults
Cults, yeah.
that don't call themselves cults, but they are, and they have a leader or a guru or a teacher, and everybody follows that leader or guru or teacher, but they're basically a reptilian who's leading you away from yourself,
Yeah.
who's not informing you that you have the power within, that you can be your own guru, and that you don't need this false light teacher to show you the way. And they
Mm-hmm.
strip you down of your own identity and lead you into group think. And it's a really dangerous path that some people take. And some people are really damaged by these cults. I've always been fascinated with cults, but I've never realized just how many there are. There are so many, and they're so damaging to people. They're so, so damaging to people, and they just lose themselves and give their power away to other human beings. It's really sad.
Yeah.
It's really, really sad.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, that's it. You know, you're given only your experience here, and which is all traumatizing from out the gate. And then you have to learn about the spirituality side, like all of the everything, in order to break through the material.
there's so much
There's
programming.
so much deep programming to break through. And yeah.
And I was shown, so it's not just the reptilians that are behind the religions, but they work in tandem with the agencies
Mm.
to create the religions and the cults. They're all the
Like the
agencies.
alphabet soup agencies.
Yeah,
No, I bet. I bet. For sure. Yeah. They're all in cahoots.
they're all in cahoots. Yeah, it's all just levels of the cabal. It goes all the way up to the archons.
Hmm.
It's all part of the cabal. All the entities, the entities and the humans, they're all part of the systems and the hierarchy. Like it's not two separate things, it's all one thing. Because we think the material and the spiritual are separate, but they're not. They're very much intertwined, at least in
Yeah.
this lower level between, say, the third and fourth dimension or the astral plane. Like that's even the higher levels of above the fourth dimension are controlled. But just to keep it simple, definitely there are agencies involved, black projects. They're black projects, and people are being fooled
Oh, yeah.
by enlightened teachers, and yeah,
Fooled. That's the thing. Again, it's the angel of light enmeshed into all things to deceive and to pervert everything.
or yeah, invert.
Invert all, like it's just to take everything away from you, for you not to feel whole. It's to split you further.
Yeah, like to continue the splitting of the consciousness, and it's just a big joke to them. It's like it's just a program. They do not care. They're purely evil. You know.
Yeah, I don't give a shit. They just, yeah, they just want you to focus yourself outside,
Yeah.
all outside of you.
And it's not even so much the fault of the actual like humans that are the heads of these cults, because they're being completely manipulated.
Hmm. Right, they're the agents. Like, I mean, they're being used,
They're being used. Yeah.
but everybody's being used to a certain degree until you're aware of how you're being used and manipulated to use other people and manipulate.
Yeah.
It's like we're all, and it's like an never-ending cycle until you become aware of it. And if you want to get rid of it, but that comes with the deprogramming and the detachment of the material world.
But not detaching to, like, there needs to be balance, because some of these cults, like, it's detaching to the point where nothing is real, like that's the teaching.
Oh,
Like,
yeah,
none of this is real, like that kind of
right.
stuff. And you have to hate the world. So there needs to be some kind of balance
Mm-hmm.
where you can still live a fulfilling life, but also not be
Right,
attached to it. Right. So it's like that
right.
compassionate detachment. Yeah.
Yeah, not to that extreme.
Yeah. Yeah. But it is. Yeah.
It's all encompassing because you have to master mind, body, soul, spirit, all levels of your existence.
Right. And that to me is a true master, like somebody that can have a successful life here, but also not be attached to any of it and could just leave it at any time and understand the spiritual ramifications of all those subtle contracts that we make all the time. You know?
Mm-hmm. All
Okay.
right.
Well,
Well,
I'm tired now.
yes, me too, darling. Well, thank you everyone for coming, whoever tuned in. And yeah, if you have any commentary, please put it in the comment section. We'll get back to you as soon as we can. And what else? Are we
You
gonna
can
tell?
email us
Yeah.
at quantumhealingwithtina@gmail.com if you have any questions or want to connect, or you want to reach out for a session. I would love to hear about your experiences, if you've had any NDE experiences or
Mm-hmm.
have done any kind of astral exploration to see what's out there, or if that article resonated with you or didn't resonate with you. I would like to know.
Yeah. And if you'd like to master yourself, mind, body, soul, spirit, contact us. We could definitely guide you back to yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. So wishing you all a lovely day wherever you are in the world. And we hope to see you again in the next episode.
See you next time, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Peace.